Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. My name is Bill, the company's expert, and I'm here to teach you a lesson. Yeah, that's right. This is the weekly live stream that I do about entrepreneurship. So if you are seeing my beautiful face right now, you should see a chat box somewhere in the vicinity of my face, depending on what device you're watching this on. And if you are a subscriber to my channel, and have been for any amount of time, I got good hair today, then you should be able to get in the chat and ask me questions. Let me know what you're wondering about, and I will do my best to help you out. That's what this is all about. This is where we talk about entrepreneurship and side hustles in particular, because I like side hustles. They are a way of putting your toe into the water of entrepreneurship without taking major financial risks and major life risks, but still allowing you to do it. So it's a great thing. As always, a shout out goes out to my YouTube channel members. Membership has its privileges. And also to my Patreons, to my super thanks donors, and to you for being here and participating. That's awesome. So thank you very much. And hopefully you get something out of this. That's right. I'm a former CEO, recovering CEO. We could do this as if it's a session of CEOs Anonymous and do it that way. The title of today's live stream is How to Create Multiple Income Streams and Scale Them for Maximum Profit. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And as always, if you guys have questions at any moment, at any point, just jump in and we can talk about this or that or anything else related to business and entrepreneurship. And a loose kind of thing I was doing was a live challenge to everybody. If you have a side hustle idea, get in the chat and let me know what your side hustle idea is, if you think it's a good one. And if you want, we can talk about it. We'll see. We'll do it that way. Okay. Someone's asking me about jobs. Okay, well, like I just spent the last 2 minutes saying, actually 3 minutes saying, this is a live stream about entrepreneurship. We're not talking about jobs or the job market or anything like that right here. Okay, so let's get started. So how to create multiple income streams and scale them for maximum profit. So this is for people who are interested in either doing your own business, working for yourself, or doing a side hustle, which is the same thing, except that you're doing it on the side and keeping your day job. You got this going in the background, evenings, weekends, that kind of thing. Let's talk about some of these concepts, because these concepts are pretty damn important. Okay, now, I hate generalizing, but in order to get this topic started, we have to talk about very general type stuff, general concepts. And that is the idea, the core principle that, an income stream, basically, it's not like finding buried treasure. It's something that you build. It's something that you build through essentially quality. That's the idea, So if you have a skill or you have a capability, this is something that you're going to be building out of that. That's the logical thing to do. Okay. It doesn't necessarily have to be built off a skill you already have, but it's pretty damn convenient to do it that way. Okay. So, the idea is that you don't find income streams, you create streams that throw off cash. That's just as simple as it gets. So somebody says, I work as a chemist. Unless I have a lab in my kitchen, it's hard to make a side hustle. Ha ha, ha ha, wrong. You can always make something. It's just a matter of thinking hard enough and being creative enough to figure it out, right? For example, you could do a YouTube channel that talks about chemistry. There you go. Costs $0 to start. You have the skills. You have an unfair advantage over anybody else. And, that can replace your income if you took it to the limit, right? So you could also sell things off there. You could do partnerships with, companies that sell chemistry kits or things like this. You could do consulting to schools and other institutions, if they're setting up a chemistry lab. Like, I don't know. Think about it, right? Don't just think of one thing like a lab, okay? Break out of that. Chemistry is all around us in the world. People have an awareness of chemistry. It's learning about chemistry as a form of entertainment for the masses. Okay? So don't just pigeonhole yourself like that on step one. Okay? Don't do that. Right? Unleash your creativity chemists are creative people. Think of all the people that have created all kinds of drugs, even before, the 20th century when it was very institutionalized. Think of all the people before. They were extremely creative individuals, ranking up there with physicists and people like that, Yeah. So harness your gifts there, the deadly laser, and, take it to the next level. It's amazing what people like you can do when you really put your mind to it. You got some skills that I don't have, I'm actually a bit jealous of people that have depth skill sets in chemistry. I took 1 year of chemistry at university, like in labs and stuff, as part of engineering. And, I respect it because there's a lot of talent there, and it's an ability that I just didn't take to instantly, So way to go. Okay, so anyway, we talked about basically income streams are based off, great source of them are based off an ability you have or a depth skill set you have. So if you know something about something, that's a great place to try and build off that, okay? If I had more time to prepare, I'd put up slides and then I could, give you guys a visual. But by the way, there's 15 people here. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. Okay, so let's see. One way to think about it is like this, and this isn't original to me, but I agree with this wholeheartedly, is step 1, build one profitable stream, okay? Step 2, systemize it. Step 3, delegate it. And step 4, repeat, lather, rinse, repeat, right? And that's absolutely true. If you want to build multiple income streams, you're not going to be doing multiple things. Usually you have one thing, one core competency that you do, and all the streams derive from that one thing. That's a very common scenario. So, if we're talking about chemistry or we're talking about anything else, you would, like the YouTube channel idea that I said off the cuff a moment ago for like teaching about chemistry. You could spin that into, selling a course on chemistry. You could spin that into consulting with institutions about, matters of chemistry, setting up labs, etc. in schools, things like this. You don't have to be like, the foremost authority on chemistry in the world. You just have to be one of the more accessible people that accessible sources of that information that people regard you as an authority for, right? That could be one way of doing it, right? So that's the idea. And the other thing about entrepreneurship is that you're only one person. In the beginning, it's all you. You're the one that's doing everything. As you scale up, you're going to be doing what I talked about a moment ago. You're going to be systematizing it. So you're basically saying, okay, this is what I do. Okay, and I'm going to write the procedure down. And I'm going to have it be methodical. And then once you've done that, then it's possible to delegate it. It's possible to bring people in to do pieces of it in the beginning. And then ultimately, it might even be possible to hand over the entire thing to another person for them to run. Okay, so that would be the ultimate form of delegation. Somebody emailed me, one of my YouTube channel members emailed me recently and said, do you have a video on delegation? And I don't think I do. I don't think I do because, first of all, I have like 1,000 videos, so it's hard to remember what I've done. Secondly, I don't consider delegation really that much of a challenge, so it's kind of unremarkable. The only thing I would say about delegation, if that person is watching, is there are different forms of delegation, different grades of delegation. One extreme is when you say, you handle the whole thing, I don't even want to know. If I don't hear anything, I'm just going to assume it's all under control, everything's going smoothly, you take care of it, right? That's one extreme. And then the other extreme, of course, is like, just tiny delegation. You give like very basic tasks to someone, you're checking in with them, you're wanting progress reports from them. They don't make any major decisions without you being involved, right? So, it's a difference of degree, right? So you start out with what I just described, like just very basic, minimal delegation. And then as people become more capable and they learn what's going on and you have more trust in them, you gradually have a hands-off approach. So that graduates to, the next step would be You handle it, but keep me in the loop. If there's any developments, let me know. And I want you reporting back periodically, right? So I can keep tabs on it. That kind of thing. So you're giving them some autonomy, but they're still checking in quite often, right? And then you get to the point where you offload certain tasks to them completely. And then you do more and more of that until they're handling more and more of the process, right? Eventually they take over the process. So that's what I really have to say about delegation. There isn't any more to it other than if you have direct reports, and this is outside of the entrepreneurship construct. If you have direct reports, you just have to keep track on what everybody's doing, right? So these two people are maxed out. These two people still have capacity. You could give them projects or whatever, or deal with unscheduled things. So that's about all there is to delegation. So just as an aside. Okay. Anyway, coming back to income streams, that's basically how it works. So you don't usually build up 8 income streams that are all completely different, deriving from different things. Usually they're all based off the first income stream, the first thing that you do, right? They're all related. Okay. Let's go over to you guys for just a moment here. Ocean Sound says, hello, I am writing a first book, but told to self-publish. What do you think about self-publishing? Here's what I think, okay? Any type of creative like content generation, whether you do paintings or music, or you're an author, or you're a videographer like YouTubers, you know, like I guess kind of I am in this context. It's the same kind of principle, right? Anybody can make a video of themselves. Anybody can do a painting. Anybody can record a song these days. And anybody can write a book. The difference is while a lot of people could write a book if they put their mind to it, a tiny subset of those people would write a book that other people want to read. That's the difference, right? So if it's your first book, I can understand if it's like a major milestone for you just to have a book. It's like, hey, major milestone here. I did it, you know? First book, never written anything nearly that long before, or that coordinated. Great. But what I imagine is the challenge is not just in the writing. The challenge is understanding your audience. What do they want to read? What are they interested in? What keeps them turning pages? That's the stuff you need to find out. That's the stuff you need to perfect. You need to practice. That's why it helps to work with an audience as you go. And then when you finish that book, number one, it helps if you have a small audience built in of people you've been working with. But secondly, you're giving people a book that it's not just about pleasing yourself. It's not just what you want to do. It's what other people want to read. So when they read it, they think, wow, this is awesome. And then word of mouth spreads and then success, right? So that's what I'd say about writing a book. Hopefully that helps. Self-publishing is fine. Yeah. But it doesn't matter whether you publish it or somebody else publishes it. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters in the end is there an audience for it? And do they like it? So whether you put it into the hands of people yourself or you go through a publisher that puts it into the hands of people yourself, you have the same problem. When people get it in their hands, they have to like it. That's the challenge, and that's what you need to focus on. The Deadly Laser says, why do you believe that 90% of businesses fail? Is it simply not possible for everyone to be successful? Okay, well, first of all, 90% of businesses don't fail. It's more like 95%. And no, because what usually happens is, well, not usually, but for a lot of people, usually the successful ones, it fails, but then they try again with another idea. And then if that fails, they try again with another idea, right? So if you have a 5% chance of like winning the jackpot when you roll the dice, if you have an infinite number of throws, you're eventually going to win, right? Well, as we all know, people don't have an infinite number of throws, but the ones that only have one throw usually don't succeed, right? So that's why entrepreneurship is based on the fact that if you can do something you will go so much further if you can do it for cheap and you can do it quickly, right? If it takes you 5 years and $250,000 to test your idea, it's probably not going to work, because the only way that will work out is if you could figuratively hit a hole in one, like in golf, like you can hit a hole in one, your first time out. That's pretty hard. That's not really human. Most of us are average, right? We are not exceptional geniuses or exceptionally talented to the point where we stand out of a crowd of like 1 million people. Yes, you do get those people. And we've all heard success stories about people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. But they're like wild outliers. They're not typical. What's more typical is if you could test your idea for, $200 and 4 months of work to know if it's either going to take off or it's going to fail and not go anywhere, so that you stop and think about trying something else, then you have a chance. Because, usually people don't hit a hole in one. Usually it's many attempts, right? You have a bit of luck along the way sometimes, but usually it's the law of probability. And as you go further and as you've failed, you learn the lessons and you do better next time. You make a wiser choice or better decision making. So it has nothing to do with people being successful. These are just attempts at businesses, right? So that's what I'd say. Guy Dobbs says, I think the challenge of delegation comes from having hired people with the wrong skill set or not enough seniority. I struggle with that a lot of work. Yeah, that's the problem. Now, if you didn't hire them, you inherited them, that makes it usually harder, right? That's a fact of life. And usually when you find yourself in a workplace situation, which we're not really talking about here, it's much more common for you to have inherited people than for you to have handpicked them and hired them, right? So that's why it's a challenge. Now, I wasn't talking about the quality of people. I was just talking about how delegation works as a process. Okay, so yeah, that is the challenge. Obviously, if you don't have people that can tie their shoes or be trusted with anything, then obviously it doesn't work. It's built on the assumption that these people are capable of doing something for you. You know what I mean? And that may not always be the case. Also, the incentive structure might not be there, right? Like when you inherit something. If you're doing your own business, you write the rules. And if other people are willing to work under those rules, then, you can do whatever you want, really. So the way you motivate them with money or with partnership or, whatever, you can decide what's appropriate there, right? Ocean Sound, thank you. Good day to you. Good day to you, sir. Thank you for being here. I wish you the best. Okay, so we're talking about income streams, right? Multiple income streams. So here's one way to look at income streams. This is actually a good way to look at it. Here we go. You got to love it when you press a button and it controls 2 different apps at once. That's always fun. There's different types of income streams, okay? Some are asset-based. So if you have an asset, think of the simplest example would be thinking of like real estate. Like if you own properties, but I'm sure most people don't, but you get the idea. You don't really have to do much. You charge people rent, and then you sit back and collect the rent. The only thing you have to worry about is paying property taxes and maintaining the property. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not really doing anything. It's not based off your skill. It's based off an asset that you have, right? So that's an asset-based revenue stream, right? There's other types of revenue streams too. There's one where, I don't know what you call these things, but it's like a skill set based revenue stream. So like what I'm doing, I'm talking to you on YouTube, right? That's an example of a skill set based revenue stream. I don't own YouTube. I don't own any part of it here. I'm just using my skill, if you want to call it that, to talk to you. And you're being good enough to tune in and listen. It's based on a skill or a capability, right? So, for example, if you have, if you're like in the skill trades, you're a carpenter, you're a machinist, or something like that, electrician, and you have skills. Like somebody was talking earlier about they're a chemist, so you have, you're a subject matter expert, and you might have some capabilities. You could build whatever. You could create pharmaceuticals. Like I don't know, whatever a chemist does. You could create chemicals that you then sell to, customers that buy chemicals, right? You have that capability. So, that's, if you were to start a side hustle or any kind of business based off what you do, that's like a skill set based revenue stream, right? It's based off your capabilities, value you produce. This thing keeps jumping around. So you could call it skill-based revenue streams, right? Skill-based, asset-based. The other one is network-based, right? So it's not that you have like amazing capabilities. It's not that you own an asset like a building or a patent or something like that. It's that you have a network of people, right? That you're connected to. So think of like sponsorships, think of, live events, brand collaborations, all that kind of stuff that inhabits like that networking space, right? So any money you make off that would be a network-based income stream, right? So those are kind of the three broad categories that I'd say exist for these things. And you can decide what you want to do with those. Now, God. I can't really talk. I'm under the weather, by the way, and I've been whacked out on medication to take care of it. So now I'm sure I'm operating about 50% intellectual ability right now. Anyway, that's what I would say are the three categories, right? And most people here are probably going to fit into the first category, which is the skill-based revenue streams. You're going to create something based off your skills, right? And as we talked about before, you can have one skill creating one thing, but then you build multiple revenue streams off it, right? So that's the idea. I think that's going to be a common scenario for a lot of people. As always, get in the chat. There's 18 people here. Thank you for being here. If you're getting something out of this, let me know if you have any questions. There's all kinds of stuff you could talk about with this as you get a little more advanced. One is the scaling framework, eliminating bottlenecks. So the idea is you find the bottleneck, you eliminate the bottleneck, and then you look for the next bottleneck, right? As you widen it. So you're going to be a bottleneck at some point in your own business as you scale up, right? And I'm sure you've heard of or seen businesses where it's like a one-person business that they've kind of scaled up. They've hired people, but everything still goes through the owner. Everything still goes through the founder. They're the bottleneck on everything. They're the ones that are, despite the fact they have employees, they're the ones that are in there on weekends, that are working late every day, because they feel that only they can do certain things. Incidentally, when I was a CEO, I made it a point to try and get as far away from that as possible. I did not want to be a control freak and, oh no, I must take all these decisions personally. There are severe challenges in doing that. Like somebody mentioned, you have to trust your subordinates, and that you have to have really good, capable people that know a lot to be able to trust them with a lot of things, especially important things. But the goal should be to try and have that happen, not to try and hoard it all. That's what a lot of people do. They kind of don't even try to offload some of these things, Anyway, that's the scalability. I don't like to talk about that stuff as much because that assumes that, you've done the basics and you're on your way. I think most people's challenge is to get the basics happening. So let's talk about that. Okay, another concept here. I'm just looking at my notes. Another concept is knowing when a business is ready to scale or a business idea. You have to have predictability. You have to have repeatability, things like this. Like, for example, can you make $1 from your side hustle or your home business in a week? Like, can you guarantee $1? If you can't, then it's not predictable. You know what I mean? You're not at that point yet. You have to do it so that there's a regular revenue coming in, right? Okay. Ocean Sound says, how do you legally retain rights for an invention that I thought of? I mean, how do you invent and save rights for your own invention because it was thought of by me? Here's what I would say. Now, to answer your question technically, you would need to talk to a lawyer instead of someone like me, someone that studies patent law and things like that. There are two ways that I know of, in theory, to do this. One is with patents, when you disclose everything into a patent, and then you file a patent, and then you defend that patent. It's not enough to have a patent. People are going to infringe on your patent, just so you know. If you're one person operating in a garage, you're going to get a manufacturing company that employs 5,000 people. They're going to infringe upon your patent. Right? Now, what are you going to do about it? Do you have the resources to fight it in court? Do you have the resources to be able to dissuade them and threaten them? That's the unfortunate reality of patents. When the 5,000 strong manufacturing entity discovers that you hold the patent on this and you're a one-person business, they're usually going to assume that you can't do anything about it if they were to impinge on your patent. So maybe that holds out, maybe it doesn't, but that's the game you're playing. So if you're in for a penny, you should be in for a pound. You have to then be able to defend these things. What a lot of people do instead is they simply hold a trade secret. So that means that they don't patent it. They don't disclose it all into a patent and then file the patent and protect it that way. Instead, they literally keep it a secret. They don't tell the world. So if you're creating a product where it's hard to reverse engineer it, or you're protecting something that they can't reverse engineer, like you're protecting the manufacturing process, not the product itself, right? It's possible to keep that a secret just by being secretive and not telling the world. You don't have any employees. So unless somebody breaks into your facility and commits a crime, I mean, how would they ever discover what you're doing, But so that's a literal attempt to answer your question. However, before we get to that point in reality, okay, the reality is that if you have something that hasn't made $1,000, it hasn't made $1 million, why would anyone give a crap to steal your thing? You know what I'm saying? If you keep it a trade secret, so someone has to commit a crime to get hold of it, right? What is the motivation? What's the incentive for someone to steal your thing when it hasn't made any money and nobody cares? You know what I mean? That's the reality, right? So what I'd recommend as the practical way to do this, now, it may vary by industry a little bit, but generally speaking, this is what I'd recommend. Don't think like that in the beginning. Until you have a proven hit on your hands, like it's made $1 million, nobody gives a crap. Nobody's going to steal this thing that you're doing. I've met many entrepreneurs, many startup founders that are paranoid. I had one client that, this was about 10 years ago, one client that they hired me as a consultant for them, for their business, and they wouldn't tell me what they do. They're absolutely paranoid. And that's what they were afraid of. They were afraid that if I tell anyone, then someone's going to steal it. And it's well, you haven't made any money with this. You've been talking about this for a couple of years. You haven't made a single dollar with it. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows you've got this thing and nobody cares. So that's kind of a self-protecting thing. So I recommend A, learn that reality. B, protect it with a trade secret rather than a patent, generally speaking. And only consider patents and stuff when you scale up and when this is a proven thing. It's not just a theory. It's a proven thing. It's made money, a lot of it. And therefore, it has a lot of value. And when you get to that point, doing this properly is not really a concern, because you can hire the people that know how to do this. All the contract lawyers and the patent lawyers, IP lawyers or whatever, they will know this stuff. You just pay for their time. They do it all for you, and it's all done properly. That's what I'd say. But that's a good question, because I know some people really struggling with that. They're obsessing about this, and that's what's actually preventing them from starting, So as a general rule, I always recommend people, like, if you have an idea, just go out and see if you can make money with it. Don't be like paranoid and say, oh, I'm scared to even make a move because I'm afraid that someone could steal it from me. There's nothing to steal until you make a fortune. You know what I mean? So that's the reality of it. Ocean Sound says, I thought of that piano rug that you dance on years ago, but someone else designed it. Okay. I don't quite understand that, but, Sure. I mean, listen. We may have a difference of perspective on this, and that's fine, But if you're asking my opinion and recommendation, that's what I'd say when it comes to this stuff. People always think that they're geniuses. People always think that, oh, I have this idea. It's $1 billion idea, And I'm not going to test that. I'm not going to actually demonstrate that. I'm just going to assume that that's what it is. And then I'm going to assume that, everybody wants it. And that's just not the case. That's like the spotlight effect, We all think that everything revolves around us, and it doesn't. They're not paying attention to you. They don't care. You know what I mean? So if you really, really want to go down this path, go down this path. I'm not dissuading you from it. You need to do what is right for you. Don't let anyone, including me, talk you into anything that just doesn't sit right with you. So if you want to go down that path, go for it. But just keep in mind what I've been saying, and see how it plays out. Okay? Don't burn a fortune paying for lawyers and filing patents and all this kind of stuff. Because that's not being in business. That's having a hobby. That's where it becomes a liability for you rather than an asset. The Deadly Laser says, is it still possible to have multiple income streams even if your personal situation is unfavorable, like living in extreme poverty? Well, I'm not an authority on extreme poverty. So it might be arrogant of me to answer that. I don't think I'd be able to contribute anything really meaningful there, because I'd just be assuming the situation of people in extreme poverty. You know what I mean? When you say extreme poverty, I'm thinking people that don't have a residence. They are only concerned with the food to feed themselves that day. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm picturing. So if that's what you mean, I don't think you're going to be worried about any of this stuff, if that's your situation. Guido says, do you think freelancing is a good way to acquire potential customers or even test a potential product on them as a freebie or as part of a regular service? Yeah. Depending on what you do, you could maybe make that work. Freelancing kind of is very, very industry specific. That means it really varies by industry. In one industry, everybody does freelancing. It's almost like think of things like construction, like residential construction. You have a skilled trade. You are a carpenter, or you are a plumber, or whatever. It's you build your business on freelancing in the sense that you're working for other people, you're setting up on your own. You're demonstrating your abilities, and you're using it to maybe gain prominence, gain word of mouth, build up a network of people that know you and trust you and all this kind of stuff, which turn into hopefully a list of clients, so that's one thing. But other industries like oil production, freelancing is not really a thing because there's major barriers to entry, right? Even in the consulting world, if you consult on petroleum or something like that, if you're just one person, it's very hard. I mean, I don't work in that industry, but I believe that's not really a thing in that industry. There are consultants, but they're the huge management consulting, companies. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it really depends on what industry you're talking about. But for certain industries, definitely, yeah. You're welcome, Ocean Sound. Really glad to have come here. You're a real... Well, thank you very much. I think you do me too much credit there, Ocean Sound. I'm just experienced. I've just done a lot of stuff. I'm not particularly smart about it. And I'm not a great speaker. So you have to sit through my, stream of consciousness, extemporaneous speaking here, which is not easy. That's why I only have 26 people here when my channel has 500,000 subscribers. So, but if you can sit through all that, hopefully there's some things that can help you here. You see, the thing is, it's hard to give out blanket advice for everybody in every industry at every stage. That's the thing. A lot of the stuff is the principles and the little business sayings. They're all nice and easy to repeat, but the reality can vary depending on where along the journey you are. You know what I mean? Magic Beans, that's an awesome name, by the way, says, my goal is to hit a consistent $500 a month. For a beginner, what's the most reliable path to that first 500? Selling a high-skill service or building a tiny system of service, digital e-books, reporting? You're asking the wrong question, Magic Beans. I completely understand starting with a financial goal. I get that, because that's how we all think. We think in terms of the result, right? But if you're trying to turn that into a plan as to what to do, okay, you're approaching it from the wrong angle here. You need to approach it from, there's two big questions. The first is, what do you want to do? Okay, what would make you happy? And I don't mean just the satisfaction of knowing that you've done something. I mean, you're living the day-to-day mundane tasks of doing. What would feel less mundane because you're just enjoying this whole thing? What is that to you? What type of activity, would you enjoy that would not become a chore? It would not get old. It would not be become a drag if you were forced to do it every day. That's the first question. The second question is, what can you do, right? So if you have skills or abilities or talents in a certain area, right, that's probably going to be the best indicator of, the most likely path for you to succeed at something, right? If you can do something well, that's usually the thing you're going to do that will lead to success. I know that sounds so self-evident, but what is it that, you're into? What is it that you can do? One thing is to look at your hobbies, right? Obviously those are the things you enjoy, but what are you good at? Now, if you went to school for one thing, you might have some real skills there, right? If you are just interested in something and you've learned a lot about it or done it a lot because it's something you're interested in and it's something that you can do very well, that's something else to look into, So instead of approaching it from the money thing and saying what makes the most money, look at it in terms of what do you want to do and what are you good at? Because let me tell you something. You know what makes the most money? Things done well make the most money, right? Almost anything you can think of, if it's done well, the person doing it makes a lot of money. That's almost universal, right? So that's how I'd approach it. Magic Bean says, I have no audience of my own. Okay, now Magic Beans. Okay, so you were Yeah, you weren't the person writing the book. That was somebody else. That was Ocean Sound. Okay, so where was that here? I have no audience of my own. So this is just the thing. Well, you know how you like. Okay, let me explain something. So I sense that you might be an introvert, like me. Okay, introverts are the people that drive the world forward. We're the ones that invent everything. Okay. Maybe you're not an introvert, but I'm just going off like the 2 paragraphs or something you've written to me. If you are an introvert, okay, first of all, you're awesome. You have a lot to contribute. You probably, go inside yourself. You have a lot of great ideas, you have a lot of great abilities, and you can really contribute, to the world. The blind spot that introverts have is that they underestimate the importance of going outside themselves, right? Because when you're trying to be in business, being business is selling something to someone else. That means somebody else wants to buy your thing, right? So those people don't just magically show up. You know what I mean? You have to connect with them. You have to show them or tell them, here's my thing, right? And then when you do present it, they have to be into that kind of thing. They have to already be predisposed to liking that type of thing. So that when you show them your sort of thing you've created, they go, that's just what I'm looking for. Right? Now, if you have no idea what people want, right? That's the real challenge for introverts. Because what I've seen a lot is introvert entrepreneurs who, what they do is they go inside themselves. They think, I think this is a good idea. Therefore, everybody else should automatically also think it's a good idea. So if it appeals to me, it will appeal to them. And all I have to do is, when I'm done creating this thing, I just have to show it off, and then everyone will line up to give me their money. It doesn't work like that. If what they're actually doing is they're doing a research project. Like, I want to see if I can do this, and I'm going to do it. And then I did it. Great. Look at this thing I did. Wow, isn't that awesome? That's a research project, right? But the moment you say, I want to be in business, the moment I want to make money, it's a completely different thing you're doing now. Now you're not doing what you want to do, technically. You're doing what other people want because you want them to buy it in some way, shape, or form, right? So you have to learn about them and you have to connect with them, right? Now, thanks to this modern internet age, introverts can come out of their shell even further because you don't have to go and meet people in person to connect with them. You can just publicize yourself on the internet from the convenience of your own home. So, but you still have to put yourself out there. You still have to find the people that are into the thing that you're doing and connect with them. They have to know you exist. They have to understand what it is that you've created and are selling. You know what I mean? So you need that audience. If you don't have an audience, how do you know what to do? How do you know the thing that you're going to do will sell? Because let me tell you, a lot of introverts think they know, and they fail completely. They spend an enormous amount of money and time and effort creating something only to discover they can't sell it. They can't even sell 1 unit of it, right? So in order to avoid that, you've got to connect to people early, and you've got to keep going back and forth to them as a sort of sanity check. You have an idea, you put it out there, you say, what do you think of this? Is anyone interested? What do you guys think? And, you get feedback, even if that's only to 4 people, right? And now, if all 4 people say, no, I'm not into that, why would anyone want that? That's not a good start. You know what I'm saying? If you then go to 10 people and they give you the same reaction, that's probably not good either. So I would not proceed unless something changes. Either you change the idea so that they respond favorably, or you find a different audience that is into that thing, right? And that validates it. And you keep doing that. You keep ramping that up, right? Okay, so that's what I would say. It's about connecting with people, because ultimately, in the end, you have to sell this in some way, shape, or form. Somebody else has to buy into it, And if you can't find that at the beginning, just proceeding full bore, just hoping that that magically will sort itself out, is usually a very bad strategy. So it's hard to gain trust. Guido says, is that IT consulting in my case? So it's hard to gain trust. And for every problem, there is already a solution, only on paper, of course. The thing is, consulting is based on trust. So, like if you're in IT, I don't know what kind of consulting you do. Maybe you consult, like you provide services for small businesses or something. I don't know. But if you did, imagine if you go to, as an employee of a company, you get sent to work on site at a customer's site, setting up their server for their office or something. I don't know. Debugging their software, getting their ERP system running, whatever you do, right? Now imagine if you're there quite a bit and you have many conversations with the owner, and they get to like you because you seem to know your stuff, you respect their time and their business, and you're genuinely wanting to help them, and they can ask you a question anytime, and you'll always take the trouble to answer them and help them out. Now imagine if you ever decided to leave that company. You're no longer an employee working as a technician or whatever your role is, and you said, I'm going to go solo as a consultant, right? Well, who could you work for? Well, one of your clients could be that business that you were always on their site. You were always answering their questions. They know you, they like you, they respect you, they trust you. So if you approach them and said, listen, I've gone freelance, I've gone solo, and that company that I worked for, they're doing fine. But if you want to have a more customized solution, more responsive solution, you want to go with an IT provider that you're not one of their number of customers. You're one of their only customers, and they care about you specifically, and they are much more responsive to you. If you want to go that route, hire me to be your new IT provider. And they go, yeah, I like you. You've done some good work for us. So if I can get you for cheaper because I'm not paying for you and them, I'm just paying for you, and I get essentially the same service and the same experience, yeah, I'll do that, So you've just captured one customer because of your personal relationship with them, right? Now imagine if you could repeat that, say 10 times, right? When you leave, you can maybe get 10 clients. And before you leave, you have private discussions with those 10 clients to say, if I left, would you consider going with me as your IT provider? Was that something you could do? I could give you a much better deal. Would that be something and they say yes. Maybe you make them sign a letter of intent or something and say, sure, I'll put that in writing. Or something like that. Then you quit. You got 10 clients of your own and you're doing it. And then it's a matter of creating connections with new people, right? Going from there. So that's a very common way people break into going solo, right? In an industry where trust really, really matters, right? There are many providers out there. There are many solutions out there. Why are these things not sold more often? It's because the clients don't trust them. They never work with these people. Would you put your IT systems in charge of some stranger? This is like your the holy grail of your business. For all you know, they could take this and they could sell it to your competitor for some money on the side. Would you trust them? That's what it's all about. It's about trust. So you build up that trust by making these connections with people, right? That's a consulting game. You could buy anybody's advice, anybody at all. There's an overabundance of people out there that'll give you their opinion about what you should do. But why don't you pay for those people to steer your entire life? It's because you don't trust them. Simple as that. Do you believe that it is becoming harder to have a side hustle because of the rise of AI? That's an unanswerable question. It's only a matter of opinions. I say no, quite the opposite. AI is right now creating a lot of opportunities for people who understand AI. So there's your side hustle right there. If you do understand AI, you can do it. Or if you're working for old people who don't understand AI, you're a user of AI, you can provide solutions for them because they won't use it themselves. So you can show them the way, for money. Right. So, I mean, I don't know the numbers of how many things are being created versus how many things are being lost. I don't know that. But my opinion is there's definitely a lot of opportunity created. Whenever there's a new tool or a new technology that truly disrupts things, just like AI is doing now. AI is kind of cool. I mean, I'm fortunate enough not to really be affected by it directly, but it's the first truly disruptive thing in nearly 20 years. People have forgotten what true disruption actually is. When the internet came along, it was truly disruptive. When, what they used to call the Web 2.0, which is social media, you can publish your own content and get it out there. When that came along, that was truly disruptive. But we haven't really had anything since. They throw the word disruption around constantly while referring to things that are just not disruptive at all, And now that we have something here that's truly disruptive, those same people that were talking all about disruption, they are all the first ones to panic, I think it's fun just to kind of watch some of it. But also it's tragic. There are people whose this is affecting their livelihood. That's always the case. When the internet came in, it shut down a lot of businesses. It shut down a lot of, jobs and things, and then created a ton more, right? But they're not in the same area, and there's a bit of a lag, So that's how it always seems to go, So there's a lot of opportunity. Still, there's a lot of opportunity around AI. It's just that it's in different areas than what might have existed just before AI showed up. Let's see here. We're doing good for time. Thank you for the questions. We're getting some really intelligent questions, and thank you guys. Thanks for being here. That's why I do these. So that's great to see. Okay, we're not talking about jobs. We're talking about entrepreneurship here. Someone's talking about their job. I'm a software engineer and introvert. You're not the only one. Most software engineers are introverts, and introverts are awesome in some areas because they're bright as hell, generally speaking, and they think some very deep thoughts, and they're the ones that, like I was saying earlier, they're the ones that move the world forward. They're, almost to a person. People that have made tremendous scientific discoveries and new technologies and, inventors, and all, they're all introverts, to a person, The problem is that they have a blind spot. The blind spot is they don't respect communication and connection between people. They trivialize it. They think it's not important. So as a result, most introverts I've observed don't make any attempt to really work on their social skills or do things like networking. They don't make any attempt because they think it's not worth doing, right? Well, here we are talking about business. Business is founded on the connections between people. At the very least, you need to have customers. You need to be connected to customers. You need to know how they think. You need to be tuned in to what they want. And you need to give them what they want. Because if you don't, they're going to get it somewhere else. It's all about people. And so if you could tack on some social skills to the amazing abilities you already have, you can dominate, And I got news for you. As you probably suspect, the social skills thing really isn't rocket science, Like anything else, it's like learning a sport or a musical instrument. Practice makes perfect. You just learn some basic principles of how this stuff works and you go out and you practice it. And over time, you feel more comfortable with it. You get better at it, and then you reap the rewards. Imagine getting the results that extroverts could get, right? On top of being super bright. So work on the social skills part, okay? You want to talk jobs? Why do people get hired? Yes, you have to have the skills. You have to be qualified, blah, blah, blah. That's what gets you an interview. But when they're interviewing several people, who gets picked? The one they like the best. Just that simple. Right? Guido says, thanks. That was a great summary of what I thought about. Trust is key, especially if your business depends on the service. Yes. So if you're on the inside of a big company, okay, so like, when you show up, you're not like Guido Jones, the person. You're Guido, the employee of huge corporation that's leading the industry, right? That's who you are to them, right? They will trust you, not because you're Guido, but because you're a representative of that organization that they know about, they've heard about, and they trust, right? So that's the idea. You're associated with them. So the moment you try and go solo, you shed that sort of validation because you're associated with these people that are well known and they're known to be on their A game, right? You're a nobody, right? So that's why you have to build up that trust one person at a time by having business relationships with them. So if you've done work for them as an employee of that company, they now trust you. So great, this one person trusts you. They trust your opinion, you know what I'm saying? So that's how you build things up, right? Now, I'm talking to you over YouTube. Social media has changed the game a little bit. So, you guys have never met me. I've never done work for you personally, but maybe I've done some videos that you liked or you found somewhat helpful or something. So you go, oh, I'm going to listen to that person. I trust what they say. I know that's an oversimplification, but, I haven't done work for you personally, right? But you trust me because of association, because of something else I've done. So you can make that idea work for you too. If you have abilities, put the abilities out there, and then you don't have to have necessarily worked for that individual for them to trust you. They've seen your work. So now in their mind, you're an authority and they trust you, So there's things like that going on. And introverts can take full advantage of that. That's why content marketing is a thing. Give away free information, and then people will develop a relationship. They'll grow to trust you and know you and all. And then if you're selling consulting services or selling anything, they, will want to buy it, because they trust you, right? Incidentally, get my course, right? You see how that works? Anyway, no, seriously, check this out. A bunch of people bought it on the weekend. I think that saw my streams last week. That one in particular, the $100 MBA. If you want to learn business and you want to learn everything they teach you in a brick and mortar MBA program in university, an MBA being a Master's of Business Administration, which is the gold standard for knowing business, and you want to learn that yourself, but you don't want to go back to school, you don't want to pay 5 figures for it, you just want the knowledge so that you can incorporate it either into your career or into your entrepreneurial ventures, check that out. Best bang for the buck around. For what it's worth, I have an MBA, and I know all the books in this particular program. I've read them all cover to cover, and they're some of the top books in the world that are used in a lot of the best universities in North America, and other places in the world. Places like in the Ivy League schools. If you go to Harvard Business School and you take their MBA program, in the various courses, they're using some of these books. These are the textbooks for their courses. So you read the textbook, you get the same information that they're getting in their course, right? Now, do you get the full experience? No. But their program is something like $250,000. Mine is $100. You know what I mean? So you're certainly getting a lot, right? If you just want to learn business, this is the best bang for the buck around. Link in the description box, and I've done a video describing the course, giving you all the details so you know how it works, you know what you get. check it out if you want to learn business. Business is the scientific study of how to make money. So it's pretty damn useful, in my opinion, on a couple of different levels. Okay, enough of the promotion stuff. Let's see, where are we here? Okay, the problem with starting on your own is that it's not free. It's not just, is that euros, 200 euros to set up something to try because you still need to pay rent and food that cost. Well, okay, incorrect. How much does it cost to go on social media, to go into a place online where your audience, your would-be audience might congregate? Like in a LinkedIn group or a Facebook group or in a subreddit or, whatever. And okay, the subreddit there's a caveat here, but basically putting your hand up in a room and saying, is anyone interested in this? Because I'm selling this for this price and here's what it does. Now, is anyone interested? I'm taking orders. You can pre-order it right here. Right? How much does that cost to put up that post? Not very much, right? Like zero. Assuming you have access to the internet and you have a little bit of time on your hands. How much does that cost? Nothing really directly. So the idea is that if you're proposing something, I could make this, I could make arts and crafts, I could make this mini engine, I can make this product, I could provide this service, whatever it is. Right? If nobody's interested, what does that tell you? That tells you, like, maybe I need to go back to the drawing board. In which case I haven't wasted any money creating that thing, right? Or I need to find where the true audience for that is, the people that are interested in that. They're not here. So I got to go somewhere else and find those people. But the moment those two things match up, you find the right audience and you give them something they generally want. You say, I'm selling this. It costs this much, and this is what you get. And then 10 people respond, and they say, yes, I'll take 2. My sister's birthday is coming up. Give me a second one, right? Where can I pay? And then there's like a place for them to prepay. Just like Amazon, right? You pay money first, then they send you your stuff, right? That's the idea. Now, if 10 people have just bought this thing from you, and you've proposed something that A, you can do, B, you can produce it for that price. Like the price will cover the costs of this thing. Okay? So you've calculated it correctly, right? Then you can just go ahead and create it. Now you've already got the money that's come in to pay for inventory, tools, whatever. You've got some startup capital, right? It's been sort of crowdfunded in a sense from your customers, right? So the first batch, it's been prepaid. So now all you have to do is put your money where your mouth is and then produce that thing, right? Okay. Now, depending on how many people want it, right? If only one person wants it and you say, that's just not enough to proceed with this, you say, here's your refund. I'm sorry, we've had some setbacks, but I appreciate it. Have yourself a great day. It's totally above board. How much does that cost to do this? Practically zero, right? It's self-funded. It requires a little bit of thinking work on your behalf. And you haven't actually done any real operations type work to create something. You've validated it before you get to that stage, right? So that's the answer to that would-be roadblock that you're throwing up. You don't have to spend money up front. If you do some thinking work and figure out what you can do that doesn't require it, here's like a life lesson. Just as I've noticed the view count went down by several people, I'm going to give you what I consider to be one of the most important things that I've ever learned. And certainly it helps in terms of business management. Okay, here it is. You ready? Here it is. Instead of putting effort into thinking, how can I pay for something? Okay. Instead, put all that creative thinking and that effort into answering the question, how can I eliminate the need for it in the first place? So if your plan involves several assumptions, I'm going to need this, and I'm going to need that, and I'm going to need to pay for this, I'm going to need to pay for that to get started, right? instead of wondering, okay, how can I get that money to pay for all? Instead, think about how can I eliminate the need for that? How can I accomplish my goal while not actually needing that? Is there a substitute? Is there a way to avoid that altogether? Instead of buying it, can I rent it? Instead of renting it, can I borrow it? Instead of borrowing it, can I do without it? Think in those terms. And that will enable, it won't always be successful, but you'd be surprised how often that actually works. It's just that most people skip that step. Most people don't even go there. That's why you see a change. You see like a benefit, because most people aren't even thinking like that. Right? It's all about what can I tack on, right? And how can I scale this up? It's never about like how can I eliminate something that might not be necessary. There you go. I consider that to be one of the most important things I ever learned in terms of business. Okay, Magic Beans says, how do you actually start building and practicing those social skills for an introvert who's young and wants to work on it, practicing alone or at my job or set up informational meetings, etc.? Well, don't take this the wrong way, but I have a course that's in large part about that. This is how to get a job in the posted job market and in the hidden job market. And the hidden job market needs networking. And in order to do networking, you have to understand how to reach out to people, how to, request and get informational interviews, stuff like that. So if you're looking for that, I do have that in there. It's not a 2-minute answer. It's like quite involved. But in a larger sense, if you're talking about social skills, it's very, very simple, just like anything else. I think you already know this. Figure out what you need to do. What's the theory? Like how can I do various social things I want to do? How can I come up to somebody I don't know and start a conversation with them? How can I have a conversation with them when they don't know me, but they will actually enjoy speaking with me, right? Things like this. Learn the theory of how you do those things. It's really not hard. Just a couple of little tips and tricks. Then go out and practice it. Like you have to actually go out and, specifically practice it. Next time you're talking to people in the office or whatever the context is, try to do the thing where like you engage them in conversation and they enjoy it. See if you can get them to really enjoy speaking with you and have it go on and on and on. And they're like really loving it, just as an exercise. Try that. Learn the protocol for like when you meet people, what do you say? You shake their hand when you're leaving, the closing, how you do that. What's the protocol? Learn all that stuff. Learn the theory, then go out and practice it. And that's in a nutshell how you get good at this stuff. Put it this way, that's how you get to where I am. I don't know if that qualifies as getting good, but I've achieved some things with it. So Ocean Sound says, I am only an introvert 2 minutes before I fall asleep. Okay. That's one way of looking at it. How long is it? What are we talking about? The course? Okay, well, briefly, if you are talking about this, you're learning everything you would learn in a 2-year university program. That's a lot. But it's basically a reading list. And I've got videos to guide you through it. So you don't have to read every book. You don't have to order every book. And you don't have to read it in depth. You could just skim it if that's what you want to do. So if you don't want a deep understanding of everything, you just want a deep understanding of, say, marketing, you could take the course and only get the marketing book and only study the marketing stuff. And then on top of that, if you don't even want to go deep with marketing, you just want an overview of what it is and how it works, you can just skim it. So you could do that in a few days, so it can be very short, but the amount of time you spend with it is directly proportional to how much you learn. So it is very flexible depending on what your goals are. That's why I created it. There are no tests, no exams, no evaluations, no assignments, and that's intentional because it's extremely flexible. You don't have to go in depth if you don't want to. A lot of people don't. They just want a basic overview. Okay, good. I'm good. If I need to know more, I have a reference book. I can get into it, but I'm good. I don't need to do this to the nth degree like I'm going back to school, right? I care about the parts that are relevant to me in my journey to start a business or whatever, but I don't need to know all the, like the accounting component. I don't need to do problem after problem after problem like I'm in school. I get it. I get the idea. So that's why I created it, because I didn't really see anything out there already that satisfied that. So I'm not sure if that's what you're asking about. But there you go. And I'm going to answer this one last question about this course, because I'm not here to talk about my courses in depth. I have videos for that, but I've already covered the stuff. Do I need to buy those books? Yes, you do. And the thing is, they're available on Amazon, and you could pay full price for a brand new textbook, or you could get one that's slightly older and used, and it's like $5. So the choice is yours. You have that flexibility there too. And if I were you, I'd get the $5 one. That's the advantage of doing this. Okay, Ocean Sound. I noticed that sometimes people get scared of me with my high social demeanor. Extroverts have their problems too. Yes, extroverts have their problems too. Just because you enjoy social interaction doesn't mean you're good at it, right? Extroverts are people who enjoy social interaction. Doesn't mean they're good at it. It means they enjoy it. Introverts don't enjoy it. That also doesn't mean that they're good at it or bad at it. It's just that they don't enjoy it. Now, if you force yourself to do it and you get good, you can be very good. There's a lot of introverts out there that can kick ass at social interaction. They can do public speaking just fine. You know what I'm saying? Just as there's a lot of extroverts out there who suck at this stuff. They're off-putting, they're annoying, and they're ineffective, right? It's like being passionate about a sport, but yet you've never really played that sport very much. You're really into it. You love watching it on TV and you play occasionally, but when you play, you suck because you've never really played it. That's some extroverts like that. They enjoy doing it, but quite frankly, they're bad at it, especially when you get to specific situations. Like maybe you have to deliver bad news. Maybe you have to appease somebody. They're upset and you have to calm them down and reassure them and get them to, cheer up and stuff. These require certain skills, and just enjoying dealing with people is not enough to be good at very specific things like that. Right? Or making a good impression. A lot of extroverts, they make a bad impression. They're arrogant, they're kind of slimy, some of them. So you know what I mean? You learn this stuff. It's independent of whether you like it or not. It's only loosely correlated with whether you like it or not. Anyway, there's a lot of questions, so I gotta get through this and wrap this up. Okay, Tong says, in the Philippines, I met a guy who sells knuckle dusters with switchblades at bus stops. Thought on this for a side hustle. Was thinking in Hamilton or Toronto. If you could actually patent some kind of nuclear grenade, you can maybe use that at a bus stop. It can take out a bus shelter, more efficiently than anything else. Maybe that would be the direction to go. I'm not sure. So maybe some kind of dirty bomb. I'm not sure. But there could be something in that. Ocean Sound. I noticed that sometimes people get scared of me with high social demeanor extroverts. Yeah, we did that. Constantin. I want to start posting on LinkedIn regarding my product. What is an optimal length of post? I see many posts from C-level people that are very long, boring to read. Why did they do that? Because they're morons. Yeah, I don't know. Don't get me started on LinkedIn. Microsoft, I don't know what their goal was. They bought LinkedIn and then they are trying to turn it into the Facebook of business, just all these idiotic posts. I hardly go on LinkedIn anymore because I can't stand it. And for the reasons you're stating here, you get a lot of these pseudo C-level people that post these god-awfully boring and stupid self-congratulatory posts that nobody gives a rat's ass about. Look at me. I'm at this award show accepting an award. Look at me. I'm here with my team. What a great bunch. It's like nobody cares. And it shows in the amount of engagement that those posts usually get. Listen, you need to learn sales and marketing. You need to get some experience with this stuff. Go out and try it. Try short posts, try medium posts, try long posts. Work on what you say, because in one line, you can hold, like not to use a cliche or anything, but you can hold an audience in the palm of your hand with one line if you know the line to use. Whereas other people can talk for hours and bore the pants off everybody who hears it, So it's not about how long the post is. It's about what you say. And there's so many things going on there. I can't teach you marketing in 2 minutes to explain it, but go out and learn marketing. I mean, I was talking about my course. You could take that course, focus on the marketing component. Marketing is the scientific study of customers and potential customers, right? It's essentially the guidebook for how to make something popular. Politicians know this stuff. Salespeople know this stuff. It's how to make something popular. That's what marketing is. It's a scientific study of groups of customers. Who are they? Where are they? How do you reach them? How do you convince them to do business with you? That's marketing. So if you're looking to learn that, you want to write posts that are engaging, that people pay attention to. People like reading it. They come back for more, Learn marketing. That's what I'll say. Ocean Sound 100. I don't know, but maybe this is a wrong mindset, but it is easy for me to go up and talk to them, for instance, in food stores. I just see everyone as being the same. Okay. Well, that's good that you find it easy to go up and talk to people. I don't, obviously people are the same to a point, but then they are also quite different up to a point. You know what I mean? So if you just think that everyone is the same, that's kind of an oversimplification that may backfire having that perspective, at a certain point, you know what I mean? But just being able to strike up a conversation with people. Like, for example, something I've talked about quite a lot on this channel is I built a consulting business, and I did it by doing tons of informational interviews with CEOs of companies in my hometown. I didn't know these people. They didn't know me. I got a meeting with them, and I just, picked their brain about various things. And a lot of, these are the people that ended up being my consulting clients. It's my consulting clients are either people that I knew before, or it's people from this group. And the way I did it was my opening line most of the time. When you walk into somebody's office, some CEO, you walk into their office, they say, hey, you say, hey, and then the first thing out of my mouth is, so how's business? That was like a standard opening line. And you got various reactions to that. One famous case a story I've told several times is I asked that to the CEO of the local international airport in my city. And I was in their office, and they talked for 45 minutes straight in response to, so how's business? Right now, I egged them on a bit, but they just went on a roll, and so you could say, okay, there's a bit of a formula because people are the same. They will respond generally to the same stimuli, the same thing you say. Certain lines or certain things tend to go over well. Certain other things tend not to. But people are not the same. People are quite different, and you need to break through the protocol part to get to the individuality part, and that's what people are going to connect with. User says, hi, I have a desperate question. I feel like if your product or side hustle is not unique or brand new, it's impossible to get successful in it because of competition. What's your view on that? Absolutely false. Think of residential construction. Hello, I'm just starting up. I'm a drywaller, right? Oh, I know you guys work with 10 drywallers. You're a general contractor, but they're overworked. They're maxed out right now. You need another person to pick up the slack right here. They go, fine, you're hired. Yeah. Can you start tomorrow? It's not about originality at all. In some circles it is, but a lot of circles, no. The other thing is that then you get difference of degrees. You get something that is original in your hometown or in a certain geographic region or a certain area, right? So you have that space. For example, restaurant, there's a McDonald's down the street, okay? But let's say, well, within this geographic area, there's no other fast food place. So McDonald's succeeds because anyone in this area who wants hot food and to go or whatever, or they're driving by or they want a place to hang out, maybe they're teenagers, they want to hang out at a place and all get together, they go there, right? Because that's the only place in this region. So they're original in a sense for that, like they're locally optimal. They're original for that limited, constrained space, right? But obviously there's many more restaurants in the city and indeed the world. It's not exactly original having a fast food place, right? So it does vary, and originality is not everything. In some areas it's more important than others, but in the grand scheme of things, you don't need to be original to be successful. What's original is that you're the only one that does that thing in this space, right? That's kind of the maybe the complete version of it. But absolute originality is you hardly ever get that. I mean, even things like ChatGPT, isn't that like the ultimate example of like AI? They're the poster child for like this AI movement, right? Well, China has their version of it, don't they? And they're about neck and neck, as I understand it. I don't follow these things, but you know what I'm saying? So even ChatGPT is not original. Now you have Grok, you've got Gemini, you've got all these copycat things. So originality is not, look at Google. Google kicked ass, not by being the first. They were far from it. They were trailing. You already had about 30, search engines before Google. And I can tell you, I was there. They all sucked. Google was the first one that actually worked properly, So they were not the first, and they certainly weren't original. They were just better quality, So originality is not the be-all, end-all. Or uniqueness, the originality, whatever. I'm just in now. I find that real side hustles and freelance work are now drowned out by scammers. Is it even possible? Yes, it is. It's not all drowned out by scammers. Yes, there are some, but they're certainly not affecting, the startup industry or small businesses. Where are people finding genuine work? Well, we're here talking about entrepreneurship. How is business? Yes, I always say that. Well, how's business is what I said. Like, how's business going, right? How's your business doing? I need to wrap this up sooner, so we're going to blast through this. A user says, I understand the only problem is it's actually so problematic to find out what's in demand in your area, because I look for things and I can find anything I could ever imagine of, and that's the issue. Yet you can't outcompete them in your area, all because they have more funds, better reputation, have taken up the niche market. Well, then the only thing you can really do then is kill yourself, right? I mean, isn't that the logical conclusion? Because if all that's true, then you're never going to win, right? You might as well just jump off the cliff now and be done with it, right? User, you have said several false statements here. I don't think you realize it. These people are not dominating because they have more funds. It doesn't work like that. Look at Hollywood. Hollywood has like the unlimited checkbook, and they have some of the most reliable, most dedicated financial backers and large financial backers in the world. Yet they're finding new and exciting ways to fail every single day by giving people exactly what they really don't want. So they just go deeper and deeper and deeper in debt. And it's actually like an interesting thing. I'm sitting on the sidelines with my with my bag of popcorn, just waiting to see what happens, because it's a very interesting business problem. Nobody does this. Nobody fails this hard, yet gets bailed out as much as like Hollywood has. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean that you win. The moment you don't deliver value, you lose. I don't care if you're Walmart. I don't care if you're Amazon. I don't care if you're Elon Musk. You lose. These are the absolute fundamental rules of business. People can decide what they want to buy, and they're not going to buy something that they think sucks. So a lot of times people buy the best option available, but they're not really happy with it. You know what the world never tires of? Good quality things. And we don't have a lot of those right now. We never have had a lot of those right now. That's why a company like Starbucks can come along and say, coffee, right? This thing that you can buy everywhere and anyone will sell you for cheap, right? Well, I've had this great idea. I'm going to sell coffee for 10 times what other people sell it for, right? But yet, people are going to buy my coffee, right? And if that sounds crazy, you're not the only one to spot that. A lot of financial backers did not support Starbucks, right? The difference is that for rightly or wrongly, Starbucks' customers considered Starbucks coffee so much better quality and the entire experience buying Starbucks quality so much better quality that they were willing to spend 10 times the amount of money on a Starbucks coffee than on other generic coffee, and they all came to Starbucks, and Starbucks, met like fame and fortune, right? So, that's maybe a celebrity example of it, but like quality is the thing that people want, right? Why would Ferrari even start up? Why would Lamborghini even make cars? There's already a Toyota and a Ford and a General Motors. So if you want a really crappy car, you could always get like a General Motors vehicle, right? But if you want a car that's the price of a house, you don't buy a Toyota, you buy a Lamborghini, and they sell them and they're cleaning up because they're that much better quality. So I'm sure you've got opinions, right? You have an opinion about stuff around you that sucks, right? Is there something you can do that might be better? Think about that. Because maybe, just maybe, the people around you might want to pay a little bit more for something that actually doesn't let them down the way that the current best option does. Okay, so that's what I'd say. That's my knee-jerk reaction. I don't have a lot of time to think of responses to these things, but that's kind of the immediate thing that leaps to mind. Anyway, listen, I got to get rolling, so I just want to see what the last questions are here. Constantin says, I think the best business is to take something that already exists and make a better version. Right there. Listen to this man. He knows what he's talking about. Him/her/it/that. They know what they're talking about. Absolutely, Constantin, you're getting that right. That's a model for success that many people have followed. And then they let the accountants in and ruin it by nickel and diming and cutting costs, and then they just ruin it, right? Ocean Sound. Bought my car at a successful car lot. I introduced an offer of designing a website connecting them to offer free vouchers for a restaurant. Buy them after each sale of car. They did it themselves. Okay. That is why I protect my ideas. Oh, I see. Okay, so you gave them the idea. They just followed your idea. Okay. Yeah, see what... Yeah, well, listen, you live and learn. Like, look, Ocean Sound, we've all been burned. We've all made mistakes. We've all learned the hard way. Don't worry about it too much. Don't let it affect your entire life. If you encountered a bunch of jackasses and they took advantage of you and exploited you. You know what I mean? And I can believe it when you talk about car dealerships and real estate companies. The only place where you can pay people many thousands of dollars and then they still lie to your face and right through their teeth to your face to exploit you. You know, they don't regard you as their friend, even though, you know, you're their valued customer. And they'll just double cross you just instantly. You know, I would have never believed that kind of behavior in the real world until I went through it, until I saw it for myself. And I know I'm not alone here. So I can certainly understand that ocean sound, but not everything operates like a car dealership, fortunately. User says, I get it, but it's strange that there are so many good quality products in every industry by their giant manufacturers, but you are saying if there are any good ones. Maybe I'm oversimplifying. No, I'm not stating that there are no good ones. I'm saying that there's a lot of ones that they're not perfect. You know, we've got a long way to go. In what was it, 1899 or 1900? I can't remember, one of those 2 years. The person that ran the U.S. Patent Office in the United States, you know, all the patents come through the patent office, right? They said, they publicly said, you know, words to the effect of, we should close down because everything that could be invented has already been invented, right? So there's really no need for us anymore. That's what they said. In 1900, on the edge, on the verge of like an explosion of like inventions of new technology that created our modern world. That's what they said, right? And we are just as bad as that. We can't see the obvious things that are right in front of our face. None of us can. Only a few people. But I can guarantee you, if you look at through history, the big lesson you take away is that there's always a ton of stuff you can do. There's so much further to go, you know? And there's a lot of money to be made for people that can bring us that. And that's where I want to leave things for today. I gotta sign off. Thanks for being here. You guys are awesome. There's 20 people. Hopefully you got something out of this. Check out my course. You want to learn business? Learn it. This is the best bang for the buck, the best way to learn it. It's the scientific study of how to make money. Pretty useful thing to know. I have a course on this. I created it for entrepreneurs, for people that just want the learning, but they don't want the hassle. And also a bit of a chip on my shoulder because I believe that a lot of schools are exploiting people. They're charging astronomical amounts of money to teach you something that's in the public domain. You know, there are so many books out there on it that are valid that they themselves use to teach out of. You know, what are you paying for exactly? You know, it's stupid. I feel that they've gone a little too far. They're exploiting people. The knowledge is out there. You need to just open a book and read it for yourself. There's a lot of people where that solution is the right one for them. So if that's you, check out that course. Link in the description. And, learn how to make something popular. Learn how business works. And this can be the building block. This combined with some real life experience that can, make you a business owner if that's what you want to be. I mean, I don't have a job. I work for myself. I have for the last 15, 20 years. I wholeheartedly recommend it. For some people, this is the right thing to do. I'm one of those people. If you are too, and you have a little bit of a rebellious attitude, and you've got some original ideas, learn all you can and empower yourself. And I do this stream every week. So if you have any more questions, come back next week and we can get into it. Thanks for your attention. Have yourselves a great day. I will be back in half an hour talking about jobs on this channel. So until next week, I'll see you later. Take care.